So yeah, so from the beginning, this is your home page. You have the new scan button right here, and you can see your serial number of your scanner here, and then you'll be able to see any files that you might have saved previously in this location. And you can also open a previous file if you click here and go searching through your files. And as I mentioned also, on the online services, when you click here and you log in, you can also go to the Learn section and the Shop section in case you need to purchase anything else like additional targets, or if you want to purchase a rugged case or a longer cable for your scanner, you can do that all here. So once you're ready to scan, you just click on the New Scan button here. And then the first page that's going to show up is the parameters. So in the parameters page, you get to tell the software what kind of part you're going to be scanning. So it might be a tiny part like a chest piece. It might be something small like a helmet, or maybe medium size like a car seat, large like a vehicle. And then we also have settings for human body. Now all these things are changing the advanced parameters down below. Yes. So once you get the hang of how everything works, you can change these parameters as you wish. But in the beginning, when you're first getting started and you're not sure what different things mean, you can just go ahead and choose the different options and it'll change the settings for you. In our case right now, we're going to do a small mechanical type part. So it's going to be this one here. So I'll go ahead and choose small there. And then for fine, this is going to be changing the detail. So if I change, if I have very fine, for example, then the detail size is going to be 4 millimeters or less. That means that if I'm looking at my part and there's some important feature that I need to get, for example, these hole locations, I need to pay attention to how large these diameters are. And then depending on this size of this hole, I'll decide what my detail is here. So in this case, these diameters are a little bit somewhere around 4 millimeters. So I'm going to choose detail size should be smaller than 4 millimeters. That way it gives me something a little bit more detailed than what I need. Otherwise, you can choose something like bigger than 8 millimeters, between 8 millimeters and 15 millimeters, or bigger than 15 millimeters. And then, of course, you can choose custom, which will open up the advanced parameters. Then under output, you can tell the software how much cleanup you want the software to automatically do. So balanced is a nice balanced method. Enhanced is like very, very clean, but it might get rid of some of the features that maybe you wanted. So in the case of the shoe here, notice it's very, very smooth now. And then express would be where there's really not very much cleanup at all, and you're kind of just trying to go as fast as possible. And maybe you're going to do the cleanup yourself manually, which Peel.CAD offers all the tools for you to be able to clean everything how you want exactly. And then the last one is watertight. So in the case of people that are 3D printing and maybe they don't have that Peel.CAD software, this is something that they could do if they wanted to just have an easy way to make everything watertight and all the holes filled. Personally, I like to do everything in Peel.CAD. It gives me a lot more control to clean any of the mesh, and also to, of course, make all the features that I need for my CAD software. And then, of course, we can also scan in color. So this can be really useful for people that are doing, artwork or, sculptures, or they want to do like maybe the side paneling on a lot of architectural buildings. You have the ability to have like a color for a lot of these things. You can also choose none. So in our case, most of our stuff is going to be mechanical. So I'm just going to keep this to none, but you can do low resolution color, high resolution color. And then you can, of course, change these options down here as well, too, if you ever need color, depending on how many pixels you need. Okay, so after that, we're going to go to the next step. So notice everything's going to be step by step. It tells us what we're doing next. So first we start with parameters, then it's going to have a scan. And at the bottom it says press the trigger button to start scanning. So I know now I need to go to my scanner. And I'll go ahead and change the view so you guys can see me from down here as well. So here we're looking at the Peel3. And if you get the additional Peel.CAD software, it's called the Peel3.CAD. And what we're looking at is 2 geometry cameras, one up here and one down here. And then we're also looking at 1 color camera down here. And then we also have a projector out here. So when the scanner is working, what's happening is we have a light projecting out of the scanner, and that light pattern is deforming based on the shape of whatever it's scanning. And however those light patterns are deforming is how those cameras are picking up what is happening on the surface. Then on the other side, we have a little touch screen here. So this touch screen, if we press the play button, it'll start scanning. And then if you have the little shutter button up here, automatically it's always going to be adjusting to the overall shutter of what it should be. But if you ever need to scan something much darker or much lighter, you can adjust it there. And then this is the zooming in and zooming out buttons too. And then the fit to screen. So it's really nice and easy to work with. And along with that, the scanner will also vibrate whenever you're a little too close to the part that you're scanning or whenever you're too far from the part. Or if you've lost tracking altogether. Maybe you were scanning something and then you just went really quickly somewhere else and it can't figure out where the part is because you're not scanning the part anymore. It'll also vibrate to let you know. Okay, so all I have to do now is take my part. Okay, so it's right here. And I'll just bring it there. And by the way, so whenever you have a part and it has a lot of geometry, you don't really need as many targets or as many stickers as like something that might be like flat or something that might be like symmetric all over. So we just put a few targets here though, just to help us with a little bit of tracking. And then it's nice to put it on the rotary table. You don't have to, you can place it, on a regular table, but then you might just be reaching over a little bit more than normal. So I like to do a table like this. And then when I'm ready, I just go ahead and press the play button. And then on the screen, I'll see my scan coming in. So all I have to really do is just angle my light towards the part, wherever it is that I need to scan. And in your guys' case, if you're going to be doing like some reverse engineering, like some CAD development, you really only need to scan whatever it is, whatever surfaces are important to you. So in some cases, maybe you're really only trying to extract a certain surface. You don't have to scan the entire part. But if you need to for archiving or whatnot, you can also do that as well. So I kind of just angle it over the part. It's nice to have that rotary table because then I don't have to move too much. But yeah, you just angle it wherever you're missing any information. And then also keep in mind, with some scanners, it's a little bit hard to pause the scan, and then maybe you realize that you're actually missing some surface. So like, let's say I'm missing, I don't know what I'm missing here. Let's say that I'm missing like this surface right here. Then what I can do is I can press play, and that one's right there. So that's over here. Okay, so I can press play one more time, and it snaps right back to my part again. It recognizes where I just looked at. And so that's really nice because then I can just go back to a spot that I'm missing, add some more material, and continue on. Sometimes with other scanners, that's kind of a challenge because it has a hard time finding itself again, but not with the Peel.3. Especially if you have, some stickers that help you with the tracking, that helps it even more. The stickers are kind of like a constellation, like a pattern, where it's trying to recognize that pattern, and if it recognizes the pattern, it can easily jump right back to it. Okay, so let's say that I got everything. I think I did, but we can also double check. And now, right now, there is a little bit of noise, but that will go away after we do the finalization.
Hey, Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Mike. What's the significance of the dots and the color changing? I'm assuming the green is active, but then you have white and blue.
Yes, so actually the green and the blue and the red, it just means, so white means it's a target that it has already seen. But if it's green or blue or red, the green means that you're at the right distance away, and then red means you're a little too close, and then blue means you're a little too far. So when I do that here, I can just go close, and that shows up in red. And then maybe I'm not scanning as well as if I were in the green. And then if I'm in the blue, it's far away. And it starts vibrating as well to let me know I should probably get a little bit closer.
Nice feature. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you so much for asking. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit the next button. Oh, that's another nice thing about our software. Everything is just telling you step by step what you're going to be doing. So you don't have to think too much, especially if you're just getting started. But if you ever do need to go back, you can go back to different settings and stuff. So in this case, I can go ahead and hit the next. Now, there are some options here that I really like. For example, resume scan or rewind are really fun things to do. I really like rewind because sometimes in case there's ever any loss of tracking or something like gets doubled up and it's really not supposed to be there, maybe you have a pattern of something and it got confused as to which side of the pattern you're looking at, then what you can do is you can hit rewind and it allows you to erase a certain amount of time that you had been scanning. So maybe you can erase the last 10 seconds or 8 seconds of your scan. And then for a resume scan, that allows you to say, okay, I'm having a hard time snapping back to a specific location. So maybe I'm going to tell the software that I want to snap back from this point of view. So then I rotate my part, where it needs to be. And then I place the camera directly that direction and it'll start from that point of view. And it's a lot easier to continue the tracking. Okay, so now that I'm done with the scan, I click on the next button and automatically the software is going to try to figure out, okay, you're probably going to delete whatever table you're on. So it picks this flat plane down here and it's going to delete everything that's here below it as well. But I actually want it to delete the rotary table as well. So I can tell the software, actually let me go ahead and select it myself. So I hit Control and I click on the table, the flat table, and it's going to erase now everything that's on the rotary table and below that too. So I click Continue. And then the last thing that I would do is I would select the part that I want to keep, which is my main part here. And then I can click on Keep Only. And it asks me if I'm sure. I say yes. And then it deletes all the other little pieces floating around as well. Now, sometimes there might still be some noise, but that can also go away with the cleanup that's happening now. This is the finalized step, which is the one that I chose balanced for. You could also choose express or enhanced for those options in the beginning. But once that's done, oh, another thing too. So right here, there's a step that says merge. It's grayed out because I'm not clicking on add scan. But for example, if I needed to get the bottom of this part, then what I would do is I would take the part, I would click on add scan right here, and then I would flip the part upside down and scan the other side. Once I have the top and the bottom scanned, then I can go into the merge step and put those two together. Okay, so here we're in the alignment tool. Now this is just a basic alignment. You can do simple things like raising it up or side to side. You can also choose certain planes for some of your alignments. So I can hit lock on that, and now my XY plane is locked there. So now I can't move my blue arrow, my blue axis, or my Z axis anymore, but I can still arrange my X and Y still if I need, and I can still rotate if needed. So I can do another one if I'd like. Maybe do this one, this surface, and hit lock. And I can still center this however I want. But most of the times, if I have my Peel.CAD software, I'm going to be doing my alignment in there instead of here, because that's where you have a lot of really cool features that you can choose: cylinders, cones, planes, circles, everything to create your alignment in the Peel.CAD software. Okay, so here you also have some improved tools. You have things like clean mesh. That's going to do like a bunch of stuff at the same time. So it's doing it now. And then you also have fill hole. So, and then it tells you the mesh has been cleaned with abnormal triangles. You also have things like fill holes. You have things like decimate. And it's nice that you have like a little video that shows you what it looks like. So with decimate, you can reduce the number of triangles that you're working with. And you can also do smooth or sandpaper. And this allows you to sculpt things onto the mesh. And then you also have edit boundary. All of these tools can also be found in Peel.CAD, but with a lot more power. So I'm not going to show them here. I'll show them in the next software, the Peel.CAD. So also remove spike, and then these are your simple selection tools, but we have more also in the Peel.CAD software. Okay, so once you're done there, you can save your mesh, and then this can be saved as an STL or as some other format type. Typical ones are STLs, OBJs if you scanned in color, and then 3MF is fun to put in a PowerPoint, so you can rotate things on your presentation. And then you also have the ability. Oh, yes, question?
Quick question. Yeah, sorry. How do you verify the scale?
The scale? Oh, yeah. So there is a distance option. I believe. I don't remember if it's in this one, but we definitely have a way to do it in the Peel.CAD software. So I'll go to the Peel.CAD software, and then that's going to save it as a .p3d, and this is another file that you can open here in this program. But I'm not going to save it for now. I'm just going to go into that software now. So it opens up automatically there. And then as far as the distances and the scale, you have your scale bar here. So it shows us that this is 100 millimeters, but you can also change the units if you need to. And then also if you needed to see a distance, you can see that here by clicking on distance and just clicking either on random points if you need to, or if you wanted to get something a little bit more perfect, then you could do something like constructed, where you would choose maybe a plane that you've made in the center of that, and then maybe the center of a circle over here. And it would show you the XYZ dimension here too. Now, if you are looking at doing something more for inspection, where you want to inspect a scan with a CAD, we do have that option as well, but that would be a different software, and that's called VX Inspect, and it's a Creaform product that we use. Okay, so as far as starting off in your Peel.CAD software, you have a lot of tools up here, but here you have the alignment tools. Here are all of your entities, so all your perfect shapes that you can create based on your scan. And then over here, you have your distance and angle, and you have how to add your surfaces. You have different things like cut, copy, and then keep only. You have clean mesh, and then here you have your improvement tools, so things like fill hole, decimate, remesh. That's going to change the average size of all of the triangles. And then here you have edit boundary, edit smooth mesh. Here's defeature, remove spike, and sandpaper. So this is really just going to be more for like cleaning your mesh, really. And then these are more for editing your mesh, things like scaling things up and down, doing like a shell or an offset. You can do extending your boundaries or your edges. And you can cut your mesh with a plane. You can mirror it. You can flip the mesh inside out. You can flatten it to make something more of a 2D surface. And then here I mentioned scale. You have extrude boundary. You have cut mesh with a curve. So this is more useful for like upholstery and things like that, or furniture. And then here you have watertight remesh, and finally sculpt. Then over here you have compare, combine, and merge, things where you can compare your mesh to a previous step, or you can compare it to another mesh, or you can compare it to a surface that you've created. And then if you need to combine two different scans, you can do that here, and you can also merge them as well. Then the last button is transfer to SolidWorks. So this is going to allow you to transfer any STL or any features that you've created here into SolidWorks, Inventor, Fusion 360, or Solid Edge. All right. And then, so first thing I usually want to do is I want to clean my mesh a little bit. So first I'll go to clean mesh and see if there's anything that the software recommends doing first. And I think because I already did clean mesh in the previous step, it doesn't show me that I really have anything to clean. So all of the triangles are set to 0. By the way, when I say triangles, I'm talking about the surface. So if we look really, really close at the surface and we change our view to triangles and wireframe, we're really looking at a bunch of different triangles all connected. Actually, 569,000 triangles is how many we have. And when I scanned, I used something called Smart Resolution, and that allowed me to scan with 2 different triangle sizes. So I didn't have to worry about putting tiny, tiny triangles everywhere. Instead, I could scan maybe at 1 millimeter resolution on the flatter zones, and then automatically it was going to set like a 0.5 millimeter resolution in the tighter zones. So Smart Resolution allows you to scan with 2 different triangle sizes. I'll change the view back here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do smooth mesh. That's going to clean up my mesh a little bit here. Okay, so for example, now you can see the mesh is a little bit cleaner there. I can also choose it to go to high if I'd like. What high looks like there. So it's even smoother than before. Okay. Then what we might want to do is fill some of these holes in. So it looks like I didn't fully scan some surfaces. So if I have any features that I need to still fill in, I can go to fill holes. And then that's going to show me how many holes there are overall on this part. Now, some of these holes are supposed to be there. They're on purpose. So I wouldn't want to fill those in. But what I can do is I can tell the software, go ahead and fill in the smallest holes first. So that's one of them right there. It's highlighted in yellow. And then I can see what the next one is. So the next one is like actually something I want to keep. So I'm probably just going to manually fill in these holes then. So I'll fill in this one. That looks pretty good there. And then I'll fill in this next one as well. Now this one I might want to have a little bit more control over, but we'll see what it looks like first when I fill it in. Okay. So if I wanted to, I could fill this in myself manually. I'm going to hit Control-Z, or I can also hit the undo button here. But what I will do is I will choose flat and partial, and then I'm going to fill it in from here to maybe here. And I'm basically telling the software, go ahead and fill this in flatly. So it's a little bit more of how I want it to look. Okay. And then I might say, yeah, fill it in from here to here flatly as well. And then maybe even I can do a few more. I can maybe do something like this. And then by the time it's over, then I only have the last little hole to fill, and I can have the software do it on its own. Okay, so now I'll have the software do it, and I'm not going to choose flat now. I'm going to keep a low curvature. So it'll be a little bit more controlled as to how that hole looks. So that might be a little bit nicer of what I want. So I can click on OK. I think that might be it as far as the holes we're going. Oh, another thing too about that hole fill option is you can also tell the software, I want to see where all those holes are. So you can click on the next button and it shows you highlighted in yellow one of those holes. And you can continue seeing them all. So if you're not sure where one of them is, you can just search for them. Let's see. I think it's all pretty clean now. So I think I'll go ahead and start making my entities that will allow me to align my part. Right now, my part is like somewhat aligned based on the alignment that I did in my original scan software, but I can add more alignment so that I have it like in a nice place wherever I'm going to start my CAD development. So maybe I want to put it in the center of the circle here. So I might say, let's create a circle right there on this edge. And I have different methods of creating a circle. So I can choose edges, mesh, vertex selection. So that's literally just clicking on the points of the mesh, of the vertices. Constructed, if there's other features that I want to use, maybe I want to do like an intersection of a cone and a plane to make the circle. But in this case, we're going to use boundary, and that's going to allow me to pick any edge. And I'll choose this one here, and that will create a circle right there. And I'll say OK. Then I can say maybe I want to create a plane. Maybe I want to create a plane up here because maybe that's where I want my origin to start. So I just click on the flat surfaces of this plane, and then I click on OK. And maybe I want one of my axes to go this direction, so maybe I'll put like a cone here or something. So let's see how that will turn out. Put a cone there, and now I can choose my alignment. So I'll choose that first circle, or maybe I'll choose the plane 1, and that will be my XY plane. So it snaps that right to there. Then I'll use my circle, and I'll say that I want that to be where my origin XY is. So now it's restricting my X and Y directions, and I really only have my rotation of my Z now at this point. So I'm going to want it to go through here. So let's see if I can do that. Cone 1. And maybe the Y-axis going through there. So now I have a nice view of my part with my origin right there in the center, so that when I actually start my CAD development, I'm starting right from here. And that's where my top plane, my side plane, front plane, and so on is going to be. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's see. So now that I've created a circle, a plane here, and another cone here, I basically would just go around creating all the features that I need. I might create a plane here, I might create a little plane there, and so on. I just continue doing this everywhere that I need. And then once I have all the planes, then I would move on to maybe my cones here. So here's one cone there. So I'll choose cone right here, and I'll highlight this surface there. And notice that when I click on cone, my selection tools automatically change depending on what it is that I'm going to create. So in the case of cone, it automatically changed to similar curvature. You can see here on the tool that the little curved part of this little dome shape here is highlighted in yellow because that's what it would normally highlight. On the planes, normally it changes to similar normal, where it highlights just the flat part at the bottom, showing you that it only highlights flat stuff. Okay, so I'm about to create this cone. And here with this cone, I can just go ahead and create it, or I can give it some constraints. I can tell the software, okay, I know that I'm going to be, actually, let me go back real quick. Let me create a plane up here at the top. Let's assume that everything is going to be relative to this plane here. Okay, I'm just going to highlight the different surfaces, and this is all one plane. So that's plane 6, but I'll call it plane top, just so I can remember for later. And now that I'm there, I'm going to create that cone that I was mentioning. So I'm clicking on cone. I go down here. I highlight the cone that I'm interested in here. And what I want to show you is that if I click on orientation, then I click on my little drop down here, I can see a bunch of the different things that I've made. And I can actually make the direction of this axis of this cone to adjust itself so that it's in line with my plane top normal. So I can click there, and it adjusted it just a little bit so that it's now perfectly parallel with this plane at the top here. Also, if I'm doing something more like of a design intent situation, I might see that my half angle of this cone is right now being measured at 3.545 degrees, but most likely I know that maybe it's something like 3.5 degrees or maybe even 4 degrees. So I can change it however I want and then adjust it there. And then I can click on OK. And I can do this for all the different cones that I need. It's going to lock it at 3.5 since I have this check marked, but I'm going to uncheck it now. We'll see that this is actually at 1.9. So I can adjust it to 2, but in this case, just for the presentation, I'm going to just continue on. Notice that it also keeps the orientation in the right direction also. I can just click on OK, click on the next cone, and I can also hit Enter to do it. And then I click on the next cone, Enter, X cone, and so on. So I just continue doing that everywhere that I need. Once I have everything that I need there, then I can, let's say that I've created all my cones, then I might want to create something like a cross section. So this design up at the top right here, this is a little bit interesting. And it might not be something super easy. I might need to get like a cylinder on this edge, and maybe I'll need like a plane on this side and so on. But what I can do instead is I can tell the software that I'm going to use that same plane top from before. And then I'm going to adjust the height of where that plane is going to be crossing my mesh. And from there, I'll be able to create a nice little cross section of right where I need it. So maybe I'll go right here. Maybe I'll get these little ribs on the side as well, but I'll do it right there. Okay. And of course, I can also change the size of this cross section as well. So if I don't want it, cutting through this part over here, I can also minimize the size of the plane by moving this down like so. Okay. And then I'll click on OK. And one more cross section, I can do it over here too. You also have the ability to do a radial cross section. So if you need a cross section and you're going to do like a revolve, that's also possible. So here I'm going to do linear once more. This time I'm going to use this plane here. So let's see which one that one is. I just hover over it and it'll highlight itself in yellow. So it's plane 5. Okay, and once again, I don't need all of this, just right here and right here. And then I'll rotate and I'll be able to see where I'm going to be getting my cross section there. So once you have everything, another really important thing is you often want to get hole locations. So you can either create cylinders here or you can create holes. It's up to you. In this case, first I'll do a cylinder. I just click there and it's highlighting that outer edge. That's showing me what's getting highlighted to create that cylinder. Or if I want to, instead, I can draw a little, I can do a circle. So to do the circle, I might need a plane already, but I can also go in there and just create the plane as I go. So I will do constraining plane, and then I'll say create new plane. And then I'll create a plane here by highlighting this surface here. I hit OK, and now it's ready for me to make my circle. And I just highlight the edge here. And if I need to highlight more, I can. So I go highlight more, my surface there. Okay, and that's going to create a circle for me there. And so that's a nice way to find your hole locations there. Okay, so now that I have a bunch of entities, I can actually see them all in my project tree. And whichever ones are the most important, I can highlight them and then click on Transfer to SolidWorks. If you don't have SolidWorks open yet, which I didn't, it's going to automatically open up a project for you, and it's going to transfer those entities. If you already did have a SolidWorks project open, then it would bring those items into that software. So it's just transferring it right now. But yeah, so if I already had a project open, it would transfer whatever it is that I highlighted into that project, which is really nice because it's very common for maybe you to think that you have all the features that you need, and then while you're creating your CAD, you realize, oh, I actually forgot this one cylinder, or I forgot this one cone. So you can always go back and click on the items that you need to add still, and then that will allow you to see those features added into the project once more. So this is what I just sent over. We have a few cones. We have one of the cones from the center of that part. We have our cross section here. We have some planes and a cross section here as well. And we have also a cylinder that I created from one of those cones and a circle right here that I also created. Now, another really nice thing about the cross sections and the 2D shapes is that you can actually convert them to sketches. So I can highlight this here and then say sketch. And then now this entire thing is a sketch. So if I need to, as long as it's a closed body, I can extrude them. So I can do an extrude boss or base on that. Of course, I would need to make sure that it's a closed body, which this is not because I still have some openings here. You can also go through and edit them, or you can add certain features on there. So if you needed to come in here and let's say you wanted to create your circles in here, because maybe you're more used to your CAD software here, you can always go into Sketch and create like a circle based off of the scan that you've done and the cross section that you've created. Okay. And I think that's the main meat and potatoes of everything. I can go through a lot of these tools if you have any questions on any of them or if you're curious about any of them. Oh, the last thing, sorry, I always forget this one. This is one of the most beneficial ones, especially when you're working with more organic type of shapes, but you have the auto surface. So the auto surface, let's say that you have a shape like where you're not really sure if you have a plane and then a cone and then a plane and then a cylinder or whatnot. And instead of trying to figure it all out, what you can do is you can just highlight a surface that you care about and you can bring the tolerance so it doesn't highlight so much. So let's bring that halfway down, see if that does it. Bring it up a little bit. Okay. And then you can also grow the selection too. So I'm going to just kind of grow a little bit more here, maybe 2 times there. Okay, so that allows me to select this surface here. And I can tell the software that I want to create something like an IGES or a step file that represents this surface. So since this isn't very detailed, I'm just going to bring this down to 500. And what this is going to do is it's going to create approximately 500 little square patches on my mesh that represents that mesh. And even all of these little squares, even these 500 squares or so, they still have like an 8x8 grid where it's still conforming to my mesh. And then I can hit OK and cancel. And now I can even see how far off that little mesh is relative to my, I can see how far the mesh is relative to the surface. So I can click on compare and I can compare my scan one, which is the thing I have highlighted here, to my auto surface. And I'm going to hide it here for now, but here it shows me like a color map view of how different that auto surface is to my mesh. I can see it's everything that's within the green zone is going to be plus or minus 0.008 millimeters. So that's pretty close there. If I needed something that was more exact to it, I can put more patches, more control points. If I didn't need as many, I could put less control points. So I mentioned that all of these items can get transferred over to SolidWorks. And actually, this is another one that we can add to there. But also, as well as that, you can also highlight all these items, right-click, and then choose Export Selected Entities. And then you can export them as IGES files or step files for your CATIA or other software. Yes, question?
I think Michael has a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you get into your CAD and you realize you forgot something, is there a way of updating the CAD or is it you need to start fresh? Okay.
Yes. So for example, this auto surface that I just added right now, I didn't click on transfer to SolidWorks for this one yet. So I can just go ahead and click it now. and then it's going to bring it into that same project that I had open already, with everything in the same alignment as before. My origin is still in the same spot.
So Creo would not work the same, correct?
Creo, you would have to import it separately, and I'm not familiar with how Creo would work on that. So if you can import something into an already open project, then yeah, you would be able to do that.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, perfect. Yep, so I just added that surface just now too. So this can be useful for whenever you're making something and you want something to go up to another surface. You don't have to design that surface that it will go up to.
One more question. So these sketches, do they? I know that SolidWorks doesn't necessarily have the dimensions turned on or your preferences, but I see all the features in the feature tree, which is great. So I'm assuming there's some sort of parametric relation driven through those sketches. And
yeah, so these are all still editable entities. So for example, here you have a cone, and I'm not super familiar with SolidWorks, unfortunately, but here's that cone, and then you can also see the sketch of that cone there too.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. And this is all compatible. Like you can do all of these things. Like these are all editable entities with SolidWorks, Inventor, Solid Edge, and Fusion. With the other entities, with the other CAD software, you would just have to do it a different way. They would be dead entities, but you can still export them from your Peel and then import them as IGES files or step files. Any other questions? These are great questions. Oh, another really great tool. Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
How close could you get to, or like how much time, or would it be valuable just to like get as close to a finished model as possible coming out of this software here into like a SolidWorks or a Creo?
So this wouldn't actually develop the actual CAD itself. You're really looking at like the skeleton of everything so that you can more easily build. In the past, what people used to do is they would take a scan and they would bring it into SolidWorks and try to build it from there. But it's very difficult because it's very heavy on the software. And then on top of that, you are creating a cone that is close and it looks like it's close, but you really have no idea how close or far you are. Whereas here, you can really compare a lot of your stuff too. Yeah.
Nice, thank you.
I also wanted to show this pipe center line, which might be useful for whenever you have any type of piping, whether it's like an automotive type of situation or some kind of wire or cable that needs to be, well, maybe the wire and the cable wouldn't be necessary, but any kind of piping would be useful here. So you can just highlight your surface that you're interested in. In this case, it highlighted more than I want. So let's bring this down to something much lower. See what happens there. It said not enough. So let's do 6 here. Let's just keep going up and see what happens. There we go. Okay, so now it's highlighting a little bit more. And this is a little bit better. I could also have just gotten my little paintbrush tool and come here and then just highlighted the little surface that I want to create. But this is now giving me like a pipe center line. So this is a very simple pipe, so not that big of a deal, but it's very, very useful for when you have something winding around and you're going to need to do like a sweep later on or a loft later on. I'll just click on OK. And that's it. I think that's the majority of your stuff here. You have other types of alignments as well, but there's so many different tools that we could go through. This is all like, but yeah, you have point, line, circle creation, slot, rectangle, 2D curve. Silhouette is very useful too if you just want to get like an overall view of everything. That'll quickly get you like your whole locations too. So something like this, and let me turn off the entity so we're only looking at the mesh. Something like this, you can just say, select that top plane, and then it's going to give you kind of like a silhouette of the entire thing. and it's going to place it right where that plane is. So you can easily find all your whole locations all at once.
Gabby, Leandro has a question as well.
Okay, yes, Leandro, how can I help you?
So, okay, let's think about it. Let's say we finish this part here. We went to your CAD software. We basically built everything accordingly. Is there a way to bring that work from SolidWorks that we just finished and bring it back to the software to compare with the scan?
In this software, unfortunately not. We do have another software with Creaform where you would be able to import the CAD, but that software is a little bit more expensive. So you would be able to import a reference or a CAD, and then you would be able to do a comparison between that scan and that CAD.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. If you want more information on that software, we can also provide that, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
All right, any other questions? These are great questions, guys. Please keep them coming. Okay, so if there's no more questions, I think that's pretty much it for the meeting. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the software?
Take my money.
Awesome. Additionally, I would like to tell you about the maintenance plan as well, especially if this is a scanner that you're thinking maybe at some point you might want to upgrade to a Creaform scanner, since we are, the same company. Then what you can do is you can purchase the maintenance plan, and then let's say like 5 years down the line, because your scanner was covered under the maintenance plan, you're able to take all of the credit of your PL3 scanner and place it towards a Creaform scanner order. So all of the money, which is, great, because then you basically had like a free scanner for those years. So another thing about, the VIPO maintenance plan is that you also get all of the software updates. So if there's ever any additional tools, any bug fixes that we might find, that also goes along with the VIPO, the maintenance plan. Okay, so I think that's it. If there's any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can also reach out to me via email. A few of you guys already have my email address, so feel free to share those amongst yourselves. But I think that's it. It was a pleasure showing you guys our stuff. Hopefully you guys liked it, and we're looking forward to bringing you on the Peel family team.